This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
And welcome to a brand new episode of Crush This. Cheech, what are you doing? Like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, you just run off as soon as we get started. But now it's just chugging water. All right, guys, welcome to Crush This Live. We're presented by High Octane Coffee, Obsessed Wear. Let's see, Back Channel Productions, J Concepts, 6B Apparel, Marty Garza is book Monster Truck Technology, and JB Scale Graphics. Hey, I remember this time, Cheech. I remembered.
Yeah!
Hey, it's all because of these things.
Whoa. It's all
yeah,
right. It helps you move along. It helps you move along.
Yeah, hey,
do not contact him for dealing sales, especially crossing borders from Canada and America. That's illegal.
Well, hopefully you guys are doing good. I know myself, it's been kind of a little bit different lately. As you know, I started a new ADHD medication, and I'm in a lot of pain right now. So, yay! Thanks for back problems and all year, like 6 months away from 30. I'm
all
old.
Right. Okay, we're gonna stop with the sadness. Last thing for sadness. This was supposed to be the Jack Brady episode. He messaged me this morning. His area got hit by, I guess, the tropical storm that went up the East Coast. For all the people on the East Coast, want to hopefully you guys are safe. If any people need help around, help them out. And everything like that. So I saw some videos and stuff like that. And oh my gosh, it's Jerry Richmond.
What's up, Jerry?
Also, I guess a huge explosion happened somewhere in
Beirut, I believe.
Yeah,
that is insane. That like the dude, like I saw like a bunch of clips from it. The dudes that are on the water, like what happened? Like and then there was another shot of like. They were like almost like right beside the building. I'm like, you're probably dead after that.
Right. And it just looked like a mushroom cloud and stuff like that. But anyway, those people, we pray for them and also the East Coast. But once again, you know, these things happen. You know, people can't make it. People can't do this. Some of the times it's out of their hands. But it's definitely thinking on the fly. I just deleted it, Mike, because that was immature for a 50-year-old man like you. Very immature.
Oh, by the way, speaking of somebody in their 50s, I want to give a birthday shout out to my dad today. Happy birthday, Dad! Thanks for
He's not 50. He's been 39 years for. 39 years old. My mom always says that. Yeah. I haven't grown. I've been 39 years old for gosh knows. But
well, I think our guest is 39.
Yeah, he's pretty much. He's talking right now in the back, but
he's not on the screen yet.
I really want to thank Brad for him stepping in and helping out. He was going to be a guest a few weeks from now. But we've been backed up. We are backed up with guests for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
big news coming soon. Whenever Dan wants to release it, upcoming in a few months. You guys get ready because this is going to be a groundbreaking thing. I think we
just got a lot of puzzle pieces now going.
It's just to kind of give a hint. It's going to be. Can I say about the time it's going to be, Dan?
I don't even know.
Well, it's supposed to be something with a H and a F in it, somewhere around there.
Oh, Hall of Fame week.
Yeah, it's going to be around the Hall of Fame time.
Be looking forward to that. I'm going to release the news right now. Us and Monster Cast are going to do a whole week during the week of the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. But we're not intertwining. No. Our guests are going to be part of groups that are kicking it old school, because this is a kicking it old school edition. It's presented by Back Channel Productions. Nick Davis, go check out his recent
shows Bam!
At recent shows at Erie Speedway. Back Channel Productions on YouTube. Give them a shout out. Yay. Anyway, so we're gonna mix up all those guests into one. But this guy, for the last few years, he's one of the most funniest guys I ever hang out with during shows. This thing is bugging me like no other. Anyway, he drove the wheels off of this truck, regular and off to the side. He created 3 awesome nightlife trucks, and he's been traveling the world doing absolutely nothing for the last, gosh known how many years, maybe 30 years, I guess. I don't know, just traveling the world doing nothing, and people love it.
I'll do a drum roll, Cheats. I'll do a drum roll, okay?
Okay. It's Mr. Dave Wyzork.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring him in, Cheech. There we go. There he is.
Hey, there we are.
How's it going, Dave?
Good. You guys all surviving all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
As much as I can be with lower back pain, so.
Yep. Yeah, it's never any fun, that's for sure.
Nope. Woke up yesterday morning and you had to go to the emergency room and laid on the floor there. So it was like, yay! Right.
Yeah, my back pains quit when I quit putting on monster truck tires. Yeah, that was
nice.
For that.
So how you been surviving since this COVID?
Good. I mean, it's had its setbacks. I mean, there's not much going on, so everybody's just kind of playing that waiting game, trying to see when things start opening up. Other than that, just doing finishing up a bunch of projects that I've had backed up, through the years and getting that stuff cleaned up. So that's probably a good thing, being able to catch up on a lot of those and look into some other projects. And, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's go from the start. How did you get yourself in the monster trucks, and what was the idea of building Nightlife?
I got into monster trucks through having a show truck. We did a few shows when we were doing shows with like USHRA and Bigfoot. Little Miss Bigfoot was in one, and you're always adding chrome and doing other things to get points, to get a trophy, and it's just never ending, to try and compete with the other guys with show trucks. And I was looking at that truck. It's like, we've got 48s, we ought to just build a monster truck, and then I'll get paid to be here. And won't have to put up with the show competition part in that respect. So that's kind of what really initiated it. And then, not too long after that, I sold my show truck and we started building the first truck. So, yeah.
So how did you come up with the name Nightlife? Because, it's a kind of an interesting thing how some of the names, come about, like with Bigfoot, it was because of, Bob Chandler's foot, like, heavy foot for, the throttle. Sure. How did the name come about?
Well, Nightlife, we were building the truck and we didn't have a name for it. And my neighbor had actually had stopped over to see how things were going, and he had asked, like, "Oh, so what are you going to call this?" And he said, "You can't call it Bigfoot." It's like, "No, we're not going to call it that." He said, "Well, why don't you just call it what it is? It's your nightlife, because you work during the day and then work on the truck at night till wee hours in the morning, and then get up and do your work schedule stuff, and then go back to work on the truck that evening." So that just kind of stuck. It's kind of how we got the name Nightlife, and it just stuck with it. And actually, they kind of live up to that name. it's your Nightlife.
So the idea of the paint, because it was it originally part of the truck, or what was your idea on that Auburn red that you really don't see? You normally would see like a Corvette red or a Ford blue, something that you see stick out, but the unique paint job and the silver lettering, what got you the idea on that?
It was a burgundy, and I don't know, I guess it's probably that part of it came more from the show truck part of it, having a really nice paint, something that kind of changed colors and somewhat translucent. So we kind of wanted to keep it somewhat show. And at that time, when the first truck I built, it was more of a show than a go truck, really. I mean, you went and you did car shows and had them on display, and you maybe drove over a couple cars at the car show. And then it wasn't too long after that, Daryl Starbird started doing some monster truck racing, so we got involved with that because we were doing some of his car shows, and then it just took off from there. But I always kind of like to have something that looked nice too.
Well, it's like, the trucks of that time period, always had immaculate paint. Most of them were like sometimes compared to show trucks, like
Right.
especially yours. I love the color of it. And so, like, once you built the truck, what was like the first couple times out with it? Was it so it was a different learning curve for you, or was it something that kind of it's just wing it and go?
Well, it's a little bit of both. You kind of wing it and go, and a learning curve. After we first built it, we did a couple car shows with it. Drove it around out in the parking lot here at the shop, and loaded it up and went and did a few car shows. And then you start driving over cars, so we'd pile some out back and start driving over cars, and going really slow. It's like, oh man, here we go. Nothing like compared to what they're doing today, but at that time it was like, well, okay, let's check it out, get the feel of it. And had I known that the faster you go, the better it is, I probably would have started off going fast to start with.
So what was the story on how you're driving the truck back then? I know, sticking your arm out of the window, a few drivers did that, but then again, a few drivers drove the occasional behind the steering wheel type atmosphere that you would see normally today. What was the story about that? Did you watch Jim Kramer do that, or someone told you it was like kind of a better way to drive it?
No, it was just, I don't know. I guess it was just the way I felt comfortable driving. It was easier, especially when we started doing the racing, to line up for me. I could see where my front tire was, and I could, rather than sitting in the center. I mean, after you get a feel for the truck, you can kind of position your truck accordingly. Usually you knew that the left front fender would go away pretty quick and flatten out. And if you hit the rear cowl, over the driver's wheel well, I mean, that would launch you up. So if you could position your truck, to where you hit the passenger door in the front fender, you weren't going to get as much air and go further faster. So it was easy. I don't know. It was just easier for me to line up, and I just kind of fell into that until my last truck, Nightlife 3, and then it was the seat and the way it was built was you couldn't lean outside to drive. You had to drive it from inside.
So talk about those early days, in the TNT era, those smaller arenas, but you guys were catching massive air. The competition was very stout. You guys had trucks like USA One out there, yourself, Bigfoot, Scott Stevens, the King Crunch. Talk about the competition back then, and like what was it like in that era?
Competition wise, everybody was real competitive. I think any of the trucks could really go out there and run with about anybody. It was just a matter of if you could afford to go out and run that hard. You tore a lot of stuff up, and if you're on the road, obviously it would be nice to make enough money to pay your repairs per se. So I think a lot of people kind of run accordingly. But there was always those people that it's like, I'm gonna run this guy as hard as it'll go. So, you always have that little grudge thing going with, whoever. And then when it's over, it's over. But
now, actually, talk about TNT, and I'm always curious, what connections did you have when you first started racing at TNT for TNT Motorsports? Because it seemed like with TNT, you traveled all over the country. All the stops that you can make. But when you first started with the group, how did you get connected? Because I know a few of your first videos were doing car crush competitions for United States Hot Rod. So
right.
when you heard about TNT and this competition that was going on, how did you get yourself included into the mix?
Actually, I was doing a lot of shows for Agra shows also at the time. And there was a gentleman running the shows, Dick Hansen, actually, and he also worked for TNT Motorsports. And so he would, select some trucks that were real competitive in the Agra show racing part of it. And he asked one day, I said, "Hey, would you ever think about coming to running for TNT?" And it's like, well, no, he said, well, you're more than, we'd like to have you on board. So he gave me a schedule, and I picked it up and said, yeah, I'll do it. And so that's kind of how I got in there. And I think, a lot of it was Eastern trucks. And, I'm going to say from Louisville, Kentucky, east and south was where a lot of the trucks were from. Not much west of there, other than Bigfoot. But there wasn't a whole lot of trucks west of, like, say, St. Louis.
So one question that we like to ask, especially, we've asked you, we had Gene Patterson, Dan Patrick, and Marty Garza on a few weeks ago, talk about, the Panda series and stuff like that. What was the camaraderie like between all you guys back then? You had a guy like Mike Wine, for instance, a guy a prankster, a jokester, or, some of the more serious guys like, racers like Everett Jasmer and them. What was the camaraderie and kind of atmosphere like in those days? Did everybody help each other out, or is it kind of like an every man for themselves kind of situation?
No, everybody helped everybody out. Racing was racing, though. When you put your helmet on and you pulled up to the line, it was racing. There might be a few guys that might, do some prankster stuff at the race line, but not saying, it out loud, Mike Wine, but there's a few pranks there, but more so than not, I mean, when you pulled the line, it was racing. And then when you were done and come back around, or if you didn't make it back around and got pulled back around, everybody was there, maybe not everybody, because obviously you had more trucks getting ready to race, so they couldn't come over and give you a hand, but anybody that was able would come over and ask you to give you a hand. I mean, I can remember a show in Watertown we did, and it was really muddy, and I think I got taken out first round, and so I pulled back in the pits, and I thought, well, before it starts raining real hard, I'm gonna start getting my tires off my truck, and I started taking my tires off my truck, and I can't remember who did make it or couldn't come back for second round. So then I was fast loser. So then I came back, and I had two of my tires, almost three off at the time, and John and Bob Breen and John Moore and I was trying to think of who else. I think even Mike Wine come over, and they were all helping me put my tires back on so I could get back in there. And that's just one, for instance. Whether it's transmissions or fixing four links or shocks or whatever it was. I mean, there's always another crew person or somebody there helping, and that stands true today. You always see that. You see somebody else come over and say, hey, can I give you a hand? Obviously they don't want to impede. I mean, some guys, they have their methods and ways of doing things. And if you can, hand them a wrench or something to save them some time, that's great. But sometimes they have their method of doing it. So you don't want to impede them by getting in their way either. So you kind of got to watch that a little bit, but I mean, we're there to help. Always were and always will be.
So prior to your show, this is like a two-part question. Prior to your show, week prior, when you get there, you're always gonna have some of the trucks that are getting there right on show day, but you have trucks that get there the day beforehand. Were you one of the two? And another thing is how much time did you spend prior to the race to take a look at the track?
Well, to answer the first part, I always tried to be there the night before. And I always shot for that to allow for any complications on the road. And I mean, there's times you didn't get in there till, say Friday morning because, maybe you took out some tires or you had some complications with the hauler or weather. So I always wanted to be in there like Thursday night or the night prior to the show. I always felt more comfortable that way. And as far as looking at the track, we always looked at the track. I can't ever remember pulling into a race or even an exhibition and not going out and looking at the track beforehand. I mean, because it was safety and track conditions, and it's like, well, it looks like the trucks are going to launch off to the right. So are you guys thinking about that? And so a lot of times they would adjust the track to compensate for that. So everybody usually always looked at the track.
So we have a fan question here, which is it's just kind of interesting, with kind of the era that it is. It's from on YouTube from Wayne Norby Jr. He asked, "What did Dave think after he had to build a new truck in 1990, and then Bigfoot shows up with number 8 and was whipping up the competition? I know Scott Stevens was very vocal about his thoughts of Bigfoot 8. So what do you remember kind of about that 1990 season and coming off the new truck, and then all of a sudden here comes Bob Chandler with something that's completely radical?" And completely like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah, I thought it was real interesting, and the venue that sticks out in particular is Dallas at the stadium, where there was a big, a lot of hoopla on whether to let him run or not let him run with the quarter elliptic shocks. I mean, I don't know. I was like, wow. So I had to wait to see how the truck handled and performed, but it looked really cool and I was impressed. I've got to give Bob a lot of credit on that. They were pretty innovative in the technology and getting the trucks to handle better. And I think it would have eventually ended there, but I think with Bob and his pursuing wins helped speed that up for everybody, because obviously it wasn't a couple of years later, everybody had shocks, Fox shocks or whatever they had on there. The leaf springs were pretty much obsolete. John Moore had his quarter elliptic shocks or springs on his, but the spring trucks you couldn't run with those because your truck wouldn't handle. It'd be like running a Corvette against a tractor. It just wouldn't do it.
Now, there's a question I saw that'd be pretty cool to ask for Brad next. But my question is, okay, for those 3 years, the involvement of monster trucks went from, I always consider TNT, you had 3 years is like launching an F-18 Hornet off of a carrier. The acceleration from start to when it takes off just went crazy. Basically, Leaf all the way to Equalizer, Carolina Crusher 3, and Bigfoot 8. You revolutionized your product, Nightlife, in such a small time. With Nightlife 2, like you built your trucks so like I guess to catch up with the times, because you had one, right. Then you built Nightlife 2, and I think in late 88 and Enter Racing in 89, yep. And then in 90 you already built Nightlife 3. Right. What was it just being in that era, like I said, with TNT, and seeing how much evolution was going on in such a small period of time?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, because when we first started there for a while, there wasn't a lot of, if you want to call it evolution going on. It was just more about figuring out what to do with the trucks and how to race them. And then probably 2 years after that, then everybody started working on controlling them, suspensions, and trannies, and just improving, that gremlin that runs around all over when you're racing. But I would say a couple years, and then it started just progressively working its way towards controlling. Obviously bouncing was a big thing, with springs, trying to control your bouncing and control. So when Bigfoot come out with the shocks, and actually Jack Willman also, that was a big plus. I mean, you could see that it was going to be an advantage for all of them guys, and that's where it needed to go.
So one question we have here that Cheech, I think, was referencing is from Aaron Frederick on Facebook. He asks, "What was it like being the first person to beat Bigfoot in the Houston Astrodome?"
Well, I don't know if I was the first person, but I did get to beat him, and that was great. It's like one of those nostalgia things you do in your life, where you reflect on it, and you have 80,000 people in the stands, and you're racing Bigfoot, and I mean, I'll admit it. I mean, the chances of me beating Bigfoot, out of 10 shots, it'd probably be 4. Maybe, and hoping he'd break one of those 4 times. But so, because they're all out. And so I felt really good about it. I really enjoyed it. That was one of my best moments racing in the Houston Astrodome. And it was a turning course, and I love turning with the truck. So it just all flowed together and worked well. And I'm really excited about that.
I actually got a text message from one of my friends. He was talking about what was the reason why you didn't get a chance to run at the Figure 8 in Louisville.
I think actually when the Figure 8 in Louisville was going on, I was actually doing shows for Agri shows down in Texas or at another TNT show. I don't know, I missed out on all the Figure 8s actually there, but I always seemed to have another place to be that weekend that they had it. I would have loved to have been there. That would have been fun.
So once TNT kind of, the transition between TNT and Penda, is an interesting one in my mind, just because, TNT was, the kind of, I considered it at the time the gold standard for monster truck racing. Yes, you had USH race stuff, but I feel like TNT was that kind of upper echelon, kind of promotion. And then, that folds, and then Penda starts. What was, when you heard the rumblings of TNT going away and then hearing something like the Penda Point series kind of starting up?
It was mixed. We just didn't know for sure what direction it was going to go. We knew what direction Billy Joe Miles with TNT, and we knew the direction that they were wanting to go, and we're taking it. We just weren't sure, how it all was going to fall out, in the future. It was we're going to tear some stuff up here.
So how did you know or met Wayne Spozanek of Jupiter, Florida, which was the person later on going to buy and purchase your trucks or truck, Nightlife 3?
I actually met Wayne at an MTRA banquet in St. Louis. We just happened to sit at the table there that he was at, and got to talking to him. And he actually wasn't even a monster truck owner there. He just came to be involved and was thinking about, getting into the monster truck industry, building a truck and racing it. And so that's how I met Wayne. So,
kind of a continuation from my question there. So if, TNT, if they didn't get bought up by USHRA, do you think they would have been able to, last, quite a bit longer into the 1990s? Or do you think, what do you think would have happened to TNT if they were able to keep going long into the 90s?
Gosh, they had a lot of wonderful ideas going. And we had some seminars there in Louisville. We had a couple of NASCAR drivers there. They came and talked about how NASCAR handles their stuff. And sponsorships, like when the micro machines came out, how to get better sponsors. And so I think if TNT would have held on to it, I think that there's no doubt it would have progressed forward big time. It would be, I don't want to say equivalent, but maybe even better, I don't know, than Feld or Monster Jam that you see today. It's because they would have had the starting niche of everything.
Now, when prior to Nightlife 3, did you have any ideas or come up with any, after you saw Bigfoot 8 and Equalizer, were you, well, this is prior, before you sold it, but were you having any ideas on building a coilover or a nitrogen shock monster truck?
Oh, absolutely. When that came out, it was like, wow, we got to regroup now, and everybody had to, if you were going to run and compete. So, yeah, absolutely. That's if my next truck would have been a shock truck for sure. Absolutely, that's the direction I would have went.
So, going back to the whole Bigfoot 8 thing, and guys like Scott Stevens, kind of raising their fists up in the air at it. What was like with all the other drivers? What was the kind of thoughts? Were there drivers like, man, this is cool, this is the evolution that we need, or was it kind of a more general like, no, we don't like this, we kind of like what we've been doing?
It was mixed, but I think everybody that's seen the truck in the back of their mind were going, that's it. That's what I need to do this, because I could see where it's going to be a definite advantage to have a truck handle like that. Even though they're looking at their truck there, and boy, you're really gurgling a lot of water there, Chief. I don't know what you're doing.
I am a thirsty guy.
That sounded like you were filling a 55-gallon drum there. I don't. But no, everybody. It's like a water tank. But no, I would say everybody liked it, thought it was cool. The bad part was like, gosh, I already got this truck that I got all this money into, and now it's become obsolete overnight. So that would have been the part that everybody didn't like, obviously. And I don't know, I think the way it progressed, it's not like it changed overnight. There was a progression in there, and it allowed a lot of people to change over to the shocks and start being more competitive with the other trucks. So it wasn't like everybody bam overnight had them, and it's like, man, I can't compete with this at all. It was a progressive kind of thing. So I think it worked out good. If you didn't have a shock truck and you had a leaf spring truck, you're like, well, to the trailer I go.
Do you think more people were more upset? The way I was reading up on it, it seemed like not a lot of guys are upset about the truck itself, but more they're upset about how Bigfoot raced a few races in '89 and just fell off the map. They were doing their thing, and then they left. Mm-hmm. Then they came back with this brand new truck and kind of, kick everyone's butt that year. But the way I was reading it and stuff and seeing video stuff like that on ESPN and stuff, seemed like they were more upset that they wanted him to race the whole '89 season and do what he needed to do, then debut the truck, then leaving and only racing maybe a quarter of the season in '89 and then disappear.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the story was behind that. I don't know. I could only speculate. But, I don't know, like any, I'm going to call them professional race teams. When they have, technology available and they're seeing that, they're getting spanked quite a bit, they need to regroup. And if I had the sponsors that they had, maybe it is a time to maybe regroup a little bit and maybe sit out. Because USA One was running hard and putting them on the trailer early. Same way with Dennis and a few other trucks out there were putting them away. So if they wanted to be competitive and keep their sponsors, maybe it wasn't a bad idea to do that. And obviously, I think it worked out to their advantage anyway.
I mean, Brad, that's the same way of John Force right now.
Yeah, John Force Racing is not going to be in the rest of the season in NHRA, and I actually texted Brian Loans about it the day that I found out, and was like, man, like I don't think John Force Racing has ever pulled out of like a season. Like they pulled out of events after John had his crash back in 2007, right. But it's crazy. And do you think that Bigfoot 8s and stuff would have succeeded differently if they didn't have a guy like Andy Brass behind the wheel? They put one of the other, like John Pyatt behind the wheel of that truck. Do you still think it would have been as successful as it was, or was it kind of more of the caliber of driver that Andy Brass was at the time?
I mean, Andy Brass, don't get me wrong, was a good driver, a great guy. Some guys you put behind the seat, I mean, they're more, I don't know, gutsy or not afraid to tear stuff up. It just depends on what kind of a leash you have holding you back, and if you can afford to go out and run it, wide open, then, great. You're going to do well, but you're going to go through a lot of parts. I I mean, gosh, I've seen guys get put in trucks, that haven't driven before and do really, really well, actually better than a lot of experienced drivers. And some people just have the knack. They just have it, that ability to get in something and make it do stuff that, you've never seen it do before, that the other person couldn't do. So, yeah, I don't know. I would say, yeah, if they put, somebody else in there besides Andy, there's, I would say probably an 80% probability that they could have done as well, if not better sometimes. There's always somebody better. You just hate to admit it.
Well, the interview that I did early this year with Jim Kramer, he drove the living wheels off of Bigfoot 8. And he told me that the rumor mill at the shop was they were going to build Bigfoot 9. And he wanted to wait until that truck came out to go behind the wheel of it. So I personally think if you put Jim Kramer behind the wheel Bigfoot 8, I think he would try to dominate just as bad, as good, as Andy.
Absolutely.
Because he tested that truck as much or more than Andy Brass did.
Yep.
When Andy was out in California, Jim was driving around. But anyway, let's drift off the big blue Ford and still talk about that red Chevy. So did you ever prefer the summertime racing in the TNT days or the winter, when the winter courses, like you're going over the hump and you go over the 10 cars, or did you like because I seen you in Nashville in '89 and you ran pretty good in those long outdoor tracks also.
Yeah. I preferred the summer shows. It was just a lot easier on everything. The winter shows were always tough because you're dealing with the winter elements, cold. You were pitting outside, and then have to pull back inside, and your windows would fog up and you couldn't see. Everything just seemed to work better when it's a warmer temperature. Even me.
Man, I know how living in Canada, cold sucks. That's like one of the worst things ever.
Oh, yeah.
So what was it? What, did you just pull the A on me there?
Yeah, I did.
So what was it like, going up and down the roads back in the day? We've talked to people, certain, guys would travel with each other, like, in a convoy.
Sure.
Did you guys do that kind of stuff back then? And who did you kind of travel with?
No, absolutely. Bennett Clark. We had I think the biggest convoy we had on the New York miniseries was Bennett Clark, John Moore, and Heidi, John and Bob Breen, the Breen boys, myself, and Mike Wine, and I'm missing somebody. But we actually we went and hung out at a KOA campground. We just all pulled in there and rented a spot there. People thought it was great. And so we hung out there during the week till the next show. I think we were doing Lafargeville the following weekend or something. But we more so always traveled in a group, just because if somebody needed a hand or had a blowout or anything like that, you could offer support. And so there was always, I don't know, a group. Some guys would take off because they were going back to the shop, or headed to a motel, and we would either mosey on down the road and get down the road a ways before traffic would get heavy the next day. But yeah, I would say probably 90% of the time we were in a group of 3 or more, or a caravan. Yep.
I guess some of the guys in the
I think we have Robot Cheech.
caravan.
Yeah,
something's
going on.
Hey, we're getting close to my shop.
Cheech, you're robotic-y there, bud.
Yeah, too much water.
What was? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You got it now.
Freaking Frontier. Anyway, double check. Good.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So my question before, Frontier likes to interrupt me around this time period. Did you guys at normal, like if you guys are traveling in different areas, did some of the guys go, hey, we're close to my area, we could stop by at my shop?
Oh yeah, they stopped by quite a bit. I need to I need to move my location. I need to take a technology plug in here. My battery's getting low on my phone, so I need to get in a different spot here. I think we got it.
Yep.
There we go. I think she's charging now. Geez, what was the question again?
Going to other people's shops during your time period of traveling around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. On the East Coast, we would go to, Dennis's place. We'd go to Jersey Outlaws, Mike Wine, or hang out with Dick Rossi. Florida or Tennessee. A lot of times we hung out at John Moore's. About any place we were at, whether it was Scott Stevens' place or just anybody that had a truck. Buffalo Trimmer's place there up in Buffalo, New York. We'd hang out at his place, if we were up that way. And I had, several guys that stopped by here through the years, traveling by on 80, if they've got time, they'll stop by and hang out or do some repairs, unload their truck and fix them. And that still happens today.
So before we kind of move into what you've been doing lately, a guy that we brought up his name a few times is Mike Wine, and we've had Mike on a few times, and
Who's
that dude, we've had him on a bunch, and like the stories that guy could tell will leave your sides oh man, you'll be hurting after talking with him. Yep. Do you have any like family friendly stories that you could tell us about Mike and the experiences that you've had with him?
Oh, I've had a lot of variable experiences with him, but mostly good. Mike was always a fun person to be around. He was always making you laugh and doing crazy things. My girls were raised up around him, so he would play with my girls when they were growing up. He was always he always had a good personality. He was never detrimental really to anybody. He was always just fun to be around, just an all around fun guy. And I know my kids enjoyed him, and everybody else did. So
I guess a lot of our comments isn't involving the monster truck. So I don't know if we can. It's about what you did after the monster trucks that people are asking. So it's up to you if you want to.
I guess for those of you out there that are listening, my career turned from driving a monster truck to Transformers, Galactron and Reptar. I come out with Galactron to start with, and then added Reptar. And my plan was always to add a monster truck after I built Galactron, the first robot. And it just things got involved with that, with the power technics and the show format and everything, that I didn't have a lot of time to build another truck. And the biggest thing was I was around the other guys watching them tear their stuff up, and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that at shows. We're still tired down the truck. He's already packed up and gone.
Right. Or staying there helping you guys load.
Yeah.
I still got to participate, whether I wanted to or not. So,
Dave, let's go for the first time with Galactron, and what was do you remember the first gig, or who did you mention it saying? Did someone ask you what's your game? I don't think, was your game plan always to make a Transformer, or did it take time between the monster truck and the Transformer to, get it ready for shows?
Well, when I was still racing, I was already thinking about building a robot. I just thought it was pretty cool idea, and something that would be of interest. And so when I met Wayne, and then Wayne showed interest in buying my truck, that's when I decided to go ahead and pursue building Galactron. And so basically that next year was spent building the robot. And that fall was our first show in Augusta, Georgia, at the racetrack there. And it was interesting. It was, your first show. It was a lot different than racing a truck. You get there to race your truck, you unload it, you put your tires on, you check your oil and make sure everything's okay and nut and bolt it. But with the robot, it's like, okay, you got to unload the robot, check it, make sure it's all good to go, and then hook up your sound, and then the pyrotechnic part of it, getting it all set up. So it was, it just got consumed, and I got consumed in that part, just making sure that everything flowed good. So until you got that down, I mean, it took a while, and you had to focus on it and pay attention.
I've been able to see, Galactar and Reptoid here in Reptar, sorry. Ugh.
Galactron and Reptar.
Sorry, back pain. Can't think straight.
Excuses.
I believe you've been up here where I am here in Grand Prairie, Alberta. I forget what promoter it was for. But I remember it, and I was like, man, because I remember seeing videos of it, and it's so much cooler in person to be able to watch it. And so, with kind of that, one question, let's see here. He's wanted to have you on for a long time. Let me find it here. Where is it? Where's that question? Right here. From Dylan Sabatini. He's wanted you on for a long time.
Yeah.
Right, what's your advice for a guy who wants to build a robot?
My advice would just I don't know. I guess you just build it super cool. Flashy, and really, it's a combination of things. No different than driving a monster truck. You can have the best truck and the worst driver, and not have a good show or performance. The same way with the robot. You can have the best looking robot and lame performance or a lame show. So you have to have it's the whole picture. It's not a piece of the picture. You just have it all works together. So I can't say one in particular thing that would help him other than just have a well-rounded show with it, one that's entertaining, that people will want to see. That would be the best advice I could give him. I couldn't tell him what colors or like that.
So when you made your show format for Galactron, and then later down the line, what got you the idea of having a second Transformer? I know that made your show unique of having two Transformers versing each other, but what made you go, we need another one?
Well, just from watching my own show, I'd watch videos, and it'd be like, it was cool, but it was missing something. And then I'm going to use like Borean, or, there was Beastron back then. It was always one, and you had this box of evil forces that you destroyed. And I mean, it was okay, but anytime you have two of something that can confront each other, and you have two things talking back and forth at each other, and destruction is way better than a single thing. So that's when I decided, it's like, I've got room in the trailer. I'll go ahead and add this other one, and we'll give it a spin and see what happens. I know I can do it without it, so let's incorporate it into it and try it. And that, honestly, that made the biggest difference in my show. It just made all the difference in the world.
Now, how much space do they actually take up in your trailer? Because, from the stands, they look, a decent size, but like, are they, difficult to move around? Or, did you build them with that kind of in purpose to be able to, fit them in different arenas and different areas?
Well, that was kept in mind, size, because, if you can't fit back in the tunnel or in the hallway, you're going to be sitting outside. And during the winter, that's not a good place to be, especially with hydraulics and electronics and stuff. So, that was the height and width is a little bit, well, obviously it's nice to have the width part so you can drive them in an enclosed trailer. So if you can get them in there, you're pretty much going to be able to get it in any building. But yeah, that was considered, in building it, was to make sure that, you could, be as maneuverable as possible. I don't know how much a lot of people know about the robots. I mean, Reptar has a steering wheel, and Galactron, you drive it with a toggle switch. Everything's switches. There's 40 toggle switches and 9 manual levers in Galactron to operate it. So it gets a little confusing sometimes. Frustrating.
I'll tell you what, when I saw Reptar, I was like, that's my automobile. I can fit perfectly in there.
Right.
Because we're how tall I am. It's just, but with the technology of today compared to when you first started, obviously now when you were doing sound systems and stuff like that, now you can hook have a Bluetooth headset on your vehicle. Yep. And find a certain key on the floor, put that vehicle right there, and then your Bluetooth can reach to the speakers without even any wiring. With technology, I mean, obviously it's making your performance that, you're doing some of the performances since, first debuted. Now it got to be a little bit easier now in technology with your Transformers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I could do it all over again, I mean, yeah, it would be way simpler than what it is. But the technology wasn't there. Just like monster trucks, the shocks and transmissions and everything. I mean, technology changes through the years. So, and sometimes it's hard to, like for me to change all that out on the robot would be a massive. I'd be better off starting off with a new one than to tear it apart. Really.
Question. Another thing from Dylan, and he asked, "Are the robots in the background?" Let me see.
Yeah, no, well, they could be if I walked over in the other room, but they're in the trailer, so I had to open the door. But yep, they could be in the background. I'm in the shop that they're in.
Yeah. So when you do these performances and stuff like that, and you do your scheduling, obviously with the pyro and stuff like that, you have to keep on adding, but the internals or the foam fiberglass of Reptar, gosh, you'd be going through that a lot every year, huh?
Well, we do. Each time that happens, a new one goes in. So we make a lot of them actually. Usually it's when I make them, it's like a production run. We'll do 40 arms and 40 chest pieces. So then that's the way you couldn't do them one at a time. It'd be too time consuming.
So when you first started doing the battle between the two, what was the fan response? Because sometimes people can be like, oh, this might be lame or whatever, right? What was the fan response when you first were doing the battles between the two?
Actually, it was really good. The first one we did was down in Davie, Florida, with the two, and the crowd response was way better than what I expected. And they were pretty ecstatic about it. And so that right there told me that the direction that I went was definitely a good way to go, just by the crowd response.
Cheech?
Oh, sorry, I was dead staring. I was
thinking about water.
Yeah, gotta keep hydrated. Hydrate. Now,
right.
I know a couple times you have mixed up the show. Obviously, you had Galactron, and then later on Reptar. But I know a few shows you had Reptar coming out first, and Galactron second.
Yep.
And how many? I'm just wondering how many different formations of the program have you come up with? Because I know obviously people are asked, did you ever had one with Reptar winning? And
right.
Yeah.
Yep. And that could happen, but I guess we've tried it a lot of different ways. But the end result was always the same. The evil guy got eliminated. So, there's only so many variables you can do there with ends. And I mean, that could happen someday. You never know.
Got another question from Aaron Frederick here. I'll let Dan ask the one that was above that one. He asked, what do you use for the explosions? They scared the hell out of him.
Yeah. Well, it's a binary powder. You have to have a federal license to have it. It's a special powder that you can use that's safe for approximate audiences like indoors or so yeah.
So how I'll let Brad ask that one question, but my question is like prior to shows, do you have to have a checklist or a list of stuff you have to double check prior to meeting with the fire marshal? Because it seems like anyone with a transformer or a dinosaur or some type is like the first beeline straight to the fire marshal than anything else.
Yeah. Well, the fire part there, the fire marshal is an important part of really any show. I mean, he's there for safety. They don't. I mean, 99% of those guys don't ever want to impede a show. It's about safety. So, and they want to make sure that I'm safe too. And so would I, if somebody else was doing it. So we deal almost every weekend with the fire marshal. Some stuff, you just kind of bite your tongue and go on. But they have their reasons for doing it, whether somebody else has been in there and said they were going to do it a certain way and they didn't. So I go through all my stuff and make sure that I'm as safe as possible. And I would like to think that everybody else would do the same. It's about safety first. So
another one from Dylan. Don't know how much you can say about this, but he says one more. Ask David about his new robot.
Yeah. I can't say nothing. Actually, if my phone wasn't about out of juice, I'd unplug it and maybe give you a sneak peek. But I can't move. My cord's too short.
Another question here from Scott Bryant. He asked, where did you teach us? Is going to go grab some water, so that's why you had to leave for a second. Where did you get the idea for the forward-facing front axle links on Nightlife?
Well, it was just looking at how suspensions work, and everybody had the bar in the back, to control the axle from coming forward or back, when you hit something. But it also restricted your spring movement. You had a shock or a cylinder in there to absorb the downward, but it didn't work real well. But by putting it in front, it allowed the springs to flow and travel like they needed to. So that was why I put that on the front. And I don't know, I liked it. I thought it did really well.
The Panda's back.
Hi. Sorry. I guess you asked the Scott Bryan question already.
Yes, I did.
Oh shoot. Anyway, so I'm gonna go back to I wanted to know what was the difference between Nightlife 2 and Nightlife 3. It seemed like towards the end of 89, close to 90, you had Nightlife 2 dialed in. And it seemed like every week you were either in the final, about to be in the semifinals, or trying to push the finals. What changes did you have to make for Nightlife 3? And was it hard for you to go, I wanted to not step away from the truck? Nightlife 2, I mean.
Yeah. Well, it was tough. I mean, 2, it was a good truck. I loved driving it, but it was heavier, so, in order to compete with the other guys, everybody else is, we were trying to stay around that 10,000 pound range. And I think Nightlife 2 was it was close to 13, so I had a couple thousand pounds I could lose, which, makes it a lot faster if you can. So yeah, I didn't, if I could have kept it, I would have, but I couldn't. So, 3 was, I love that truck. I mean, it was light, fast, and it would go, and it just handled. I took the best of 2 and incorporated it into 3, and with it being lighter, was really an advantage for that truck.
So one question that we like to ask our guests, and it's kind of a continuation from there was a show a couple years ago called Monster Truck Radio with Jeff Richards, and he would always ask his guests for rental car stories. And so we've had, some people that are like, can't say, or,
right.
Mike Wine has given us some good ones. Do you have any funny rental car stories or kind of moments that you're able to tell and not get blacklisted?
Yeah, without putting any names out there. Yeah, I've seen a few rental cars get destroyed. I've seen them on beaches. I've seen them in ditches. I've seen them in arena tracks. So you can use your imagination as to probably what was going on there. I've seen them. I've seen them drag raced. A lot of everything. And I don't know. I mean, they were just having fun. And if they had damage, they paid for it. So that's it. All worked out in the end, I guess.
Any moment jump out at you?
Well, several actually, but there was a beach moment down in I think it was Mobile, Alabama, down by Pensacola, Florida, I think is where it was at. They had a couple of them get stuck on the beach, and I don't know, somehow the seats became cushions for bouncing into the water, and maybe an ATV ramp. I don't know, something like that. That one there was pretty wow.
So, got a question. This is actually for my boss, Tim. He wanted to ask him about a cigarette machine and an elevator near the hotel next to the Silverdome.
Actually, that's probably a better question to ask Mike about. Actually, for me, it was probably being in the right place at the wrong time, but it was funny. I just happened to be going up the elevator at the same time that someone was getting loaded in it.
So, any funny stories from the TNT days that you can actually ask? So, like on the track, if there was something that stuck out that you had a good laugh.
There's always funny stuff. I mean, from Army Armstrong, cracking up or telling a joke or slipping, or maybe the track was muddy, and just somebody trying to walk across it. There's just a lot of funny little memories like that. Jokes or little pranks, water guns or water balloons or toilet paper rolls, helmets. I'm trying to think of one thing in particular that stands out, but I mean, there's just a lot of little things that were just funny. You just laugh.
I feel like Mike Wine would have probably been like the main character in a lot of those moments.
Yeah, he was definitely a participant. He wasn't a bystander for sure. But yeah, I don't. Gosh, I mean, just to pick out one thing that was the funniest, I'd have to think on that one, because there's just all kinds of little funny moments, and a lot of them were captured on TV. Whether it had been Mike Wine, throwing a pair of underwear at Alan Goss, or something like that you just would tear you up. But all kinds of funny things.
Man, it just seemed like a lot of get-togethers, especially in the summertime. I bet you a lot of cookouts and stuff like that. Did you guys do a lot in TNT? Was there a truck was there a trailer that people were cooking food and that was the place to go?
Well, it wasn't anybody's particular trailer. It was just the one that it started happening in. I mean, Dennis's trailers usually had a lot of barbecues in it. I mean, Everett's had some. Gary Porter, he had some in his. Bigfoot. There was. I mean, it wasn't, I guess, anybody in particular. And if somebody would just start, and you might have started and end up dragging your grill over to where everybody else's was or theirs, and just started having everybody come around, sit around, and have a good time. Talk about the night and what was ahead.
I got a question here from Big Ed Beckley from CFP. He asks, what stands out as the biggest update to monster trucks?
The biggest update to monster trucks, I would have to say shocks. As far as handling, hands down, suspensions. The shocks are by far the best thing that has happened. the next best thing I would say would be transmissions because they're getting them to hold up. And then, the axle housings that are being custom built would be just work its way down the line. But for sure, the shocks. I mean, I watch that every time I watch those trucks go and hit, and the things that they're doing today with them is just amazing. You would never think about doing anything like that with anything that I had back then. It would just, it'd be all wadded up. It just amazes me. And then they couldn't do that without the shocks, without being able to control the bounce and stuff. That it wouldn't happen at all. So hands down, I would say shocks is the best thing that has happened to the monster truck industry.
We have actually one person giving you a shout out, and that's Brandon Rowe from Bad News Travels Fast. He said, Life was one of Pop's favorite trucks.
Yeah, Brandon, I remember him. He's a good guy. Had a lot of fun with him. Yeah, he's always good to run with.
So, Cheech, you got the pen and paper ready for these ones, my friend?
No.
You never do. All right. So with the podcast, we normally have certain set of questions that we always like to ask our guests. Hard hitting questions. These are you think those are hard hitting questions? Man, you have nothing. You don't know what's coming next. And our first question comes from our good old buddy Brendan Culpepper Sr. This has been day one on the podcast. Mr. Dave Wazorek, what is your favorite kind of pie?
My favorite kind of pie. I wonder who would have asked that question. I would have to say lemon meringue.
Lemon meringue. Is that a new one, Cheech?
No, it's actually fifth place now.
Okay.
Only 2 people with lemon meringue. I remember that. I'm very good memory on that stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There, I'd move my charger over so I can get back out here in the light.
All right, Cheech, you want to ask the next one?
Yeah, I'm going straight to the point. Do you like or hate eggnog?
Like.
Good night.
see that one comes in from.
No, does it have anything in it?
No, has to be straight.
Just straight eggnog.
Straight up. Yeah, I'd drink it straight up. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that one comes from a rivalry that we have with the Norman brothers, Christian and Philip.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Christian. Yeah. Those are a couple good guys. Yeah, that's funny.
So we have another fan question here, and we wanted to ask. It's Aaron again. What did you feel like when Wayne flipped the truck in Bloomsburg?
I was like, oh no, no. And then it's like, oh man, he's got some work to do. But glad I'm not him. It's like it went from oh man to whew, glad that wasn't me.
Do you ever have like an inkling to get back in the truck? I know there was that video on Back Channel Productions of Scott Hess getting in Overkill Evolution and taking that out for a rip. Would you love to get in one of these newer style trucks today and just see what it's like compared to what it was all the way back in the TNT days?
Yeah, what kind of questions that to ask? Yeah, I mean, I'd get one of those trucks. You're dang right. I'd love to. I wouldn't want to do it every weekend. I mean, I'm still kind of a young guy, but I don't think I'd handle it as well as the younger guys than me. So,
I think Cheech's brain just blew.
I might have just blew because I've been trying to get this guy on our podcast for a whole dang while, and I hope he follows through and we'll get him on. But David Morris messaged in the podcast for you, Dave.
Cool.
He said it was good to see you, Super Dave. Now,
there you go, Dave.
I guess you got that nickname a lot because of the Super Dave show that was popular back in the late 80s.
Yep. And Army Armstrong's the one that started that. Yep, he's the one that just started it, and then Richard Leach and those guys, they just picked it up, and so did everybody else.
The guy behind that actually passed away. I believe it was this year or last year, and I loved that show. It had appearances by Bigfoot and Bigfoot Fast Tracks on it, which is really cool at the time. Had like the giant horns on it.
Yeah, they used Bigfoot Fast Tracks more than anything else.
Yeah,
they used that for anything. Destroying wise, that truck was in it, but still, I mean, that's still cool. I mean, I've been trying to get David on for a long time.
You need to get on, David.
Yes, David, we need you. Get you on, this, stuff. We had Rob Fuchs on last week, and then we got Mark, Mr. First Blood, and then we got pretty soon Mark Bendler, the Kodiak, going to be on too.
Cool.
Yeah, Dave messaged again saying we all had nicknames from Army. It seemed like everyone had a nickname from Army. Now we were talking in the Penn today, that we were in the Penn episodes. They mentioned a lot about how Army helped people with interviews. Did he also did that for you guys in
Absolutely.
the TNT days?
It was not only, it was probably a little bit different than some of the announcers. Not only did he want to look good, but he also wanted you to look good, and be as professional as possible. So he would move you into the camera, or move you over, or maybe give you a quick briefing of what he was going to ask you, so you could kind of pre-prep yourself a little bit. No, Army, yeah, absolutely. He helped you out a lot. He helped you out a lot, all the way through.
That's crazy.
What was it like having, the TV exposure of Tough Tracks even back then? Was that, something that was, very helpful when you would go to like a non-TNT show, but, people got on, TV and they saw this, you there and other trucks? Was that, very helpful for you guys at that point?
Yeah, well, media is great for any. I mean, well, it can be a good thing or a bad thing, but the Tough Tracks was good for all of us, putting us out there, and it gave you face and name recognition, truck recognition. No matter if you were the number one truck that won all the time, or the last place truck, you were still on, and people recognize that. I still have people today that come up and say, "Man, I know you. You used to drive that monster truck." Well, they might not be able to come up with the name of it right away, or some of them come up and say, "Hey, I know you used to drive this truck. How come you quit?" That still happens today from that footage and media that was put out there. It's pretty amazing. I mean, some people it really imprints.
So we have whatever happened to the original Nightlife street truck? Did it just sold to someone else? Did you ever take a look at it again, or?
Well, Nightlife 3 is over in England. The last I knew, sitting in a barn.
I mean the street truck.
Oh, the
street truck. Yeah.
Oh, my street truck. It, I don't know what happened to it for sure. I kept tabs on it for about a year, because the guy was calling me and asking me questions about how to operate some things on it. But to this day, I don't know. I couldn't tell you what happened to it, where it's at, or even if it's still out there.
And one of my kind of final questions here is, what made you go with the step side body? Because I love the way that looks. Like, step side trucks are like just gorgeous.
That's what my show truck was a step side, and so
okay.
I've always liked the step side body, so I just stayed with that, just to be a little bit different than the fleet side. It'd been easier to be a fleet side, I guess, because there's more stuff available, like body fiberglass panels and stuff. But the step side was kind of what I wanted to stay with.
Now, I have one last question, but another question from Mike Hedman was asking if, since the Hall of Fame's going pretty big in the last couple of years, did you ever think about ever making a Nightlife clone?
Well, we've thought about it. I suggested it to my son-in-law, maybe about doing that. I don't know if that's something that would be appealing to Aaron Basil or not, but I mean, I don't know. It would have to be somebody. I mean, I don't know. I would like to have one just, for the nostalgia part, but it would just sit. So
no, it wouldn't just sit. you're not fooling us.
So it wouldn't sit. All right. But I'd have to find somebody to do it, ride it, drive it. Yeah.
A lot of people were saying how awesome the step side is, and I guess there was fans of either you're the regular Chevy body or the step side Chevy body, and a lot of people like that, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And Now, my last question wanted to know about, again, with the nightlife truck. So, your wins. Well, let's go with that. What was the most memorable win for you? Was that the Houston Astrodome show, or was there another show in particular?
That would, I mean, yeah, Houston Astrodome was, I mean, yeah, that was probably the biggest notoriety win for me, because of the, it had everything. It had the people, the big arena, the turning track, and it had, it was filmed. There's other ones that were important too, like, Racing Rod, or Steve, with USA One, or Dennis, or back in the day, beating Jim Kramer. I mean, man, that was like, when you beat Jim, it was like, yeah, that was one to put a notch in your steering wheel, because that back then it didn't happen very often, then when you beat him and he comes over and starts looking at your truck and saying, wow, it makes you feel good. It's like, yeah, that was my truck that beat you. Okay, it was me, not the truck. Okay?
Quick shout out here to Phil Tristan, owner of the old school Titan monster truck. Says step sides are awesome, so just wanted to give him a quick little shout out there. Another old school name showing up here.
Cool.
Another one.
Jerry Richmond, and then we had David Morris.
Yeah.
We have all the old guys
Man.
coming up. Bob Trent's been in the chat here, chatting as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then we got one more. We got one more here. He was asking, we all knew about what happened to Wayne, but did you ever had a close call, or did you ever roll over nightlife when you had the truck?
Yep, I did in Austin, Texas. I rolled over, it would have been Nightlife 1, actually. Rolled it over racing. Kind of just nosedived it right into the cars, and it flipped over. I think the drive shaft broke, and so the front wheels couldn't pull it back down, and just stopped right there and flipped on over. Yeah, so that was my first rollover. And that was right when Stomper and all the very first rollovers were starting, I guess.
Good old Mitch. Just get her done. Said, hey, Dave, how's it going?
Oh, hey,
so I have a mixture of everyone together, I mean, it's pretty
yeah.
cool stuff,
Yeah, Mitch just brought out his new truck, the old school bodied Just Get Her Done. So that's cool to see that's out there. And the second truck, Just Get Her Done second gen, has the Crush It sticker on it. So that's a cool thing. So
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, yep. Well, I'm glad everybody's hanging in out there. That's great. That's awesome. Hope everybody's doing well too.
So can anyone, if we got some diehard Transformer fans, but is there any guys can follow you or know where you're going to be at for shows? Or is it still a mystery?
Yeah, it's still a mystery. I mean, I guess I don't have a website or, Facebook page where you can go on and see where I'm going to be. I guess they can always, I don't know. I guess it's out there.
Look at the North Star.
Exactly. Yeah. Get the alignment just right, and you'll see the next place I'm going
to be. just listen. It's like if you like find like it's going to be stupid. If you find like a Transformers toy or something, and you put your ear close to it, you could hear the faint call of the robots.
Yeah.
You're at an arena. You're exactly at that point is when you're walking and the stadium lights are off and you start hitting that new wave 80s music, space age 80s music kicking on. And you're like, oh, he's here. Oh my gosh. Speaking of which, I want to know about that soundtrack. Was that done for you, or did you find that sound, or is that actually like you can find that music anywhere when Galactron's transforming from a space vehicle to his form, and then you have the music of Reptar going from the, I guess, aerospace off-road vehicle to the reptilian robot. The music behind those things, is that?
Well, it's actually from they have this place called the Music Library that you can go through. A guy that did a lot of my monster truck videos. You have to be a member and pay to or be part of it. And so we did some searching through some different music programs that were available, and then we contacted them, and then they can put together. So I guess it's special in a way because it is put together through them. They coordinate it, and I don't know for sure if they had their own orchestra going for parts of it or how they clipped it to make it. But yeah, so the bought music.
I was just wondering about that, but yeah. I know I can go in the detail, but how many rough sketches has your platform when you do hello your I'm brain farting on the word, I'm sorry, the script. Thank you.
The script, yeah. The script it's changed a lot actually, and I mean, well, when I say a lot, parts of it have changed through the years, but a lot of people don't even know it. They don't even, because there's a lot that's similar, and then we change pieces at a time, but and most people don't even know that anything's been changed.
Any improv?
Oh yeah. You gotta, sometimes you kind of wing it when something's not going right. You have I'm gonna use say the fire doesn't light, or and depending on where you're doing the show, depends on what your response is to that or who your audience is. Sometimes you gotta add them.
All you have to do now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There's a bit of a delay on my end, so.
Oh yeah, no, I said the 99% of the shows are done live. I mean, that's actually, me talking, or the robots. I mean, it's not recorded, so it's all live. So yeah, if you mess up, you better catch up quick.
Well, I was going to say, you instead of Reptar, call it Corona.
Corona, the Corona 19. Yep.
Have you ever made the mistake of ever saying the wrong city?
Yeah. Yep. San Jose, Santa Cruz, and it was always, and there's a few guys that knew that. They'd come up and they'd mess with you before the show, and they'd start messing up. You ever been, like Santa Cruz, it's kind of like San Jose, but it's, you ever been down there, and I know what they're doing. Is they're trying to plant that Santa Cruz, in there, and then pretty soon, it's like, oh man, hello Santa Cruz, oh, crap. Or Rockport and Rockford, and there's a few guys that if they're listening, they're probably rolling over laughing when I said Rockport and Rockford. So it was a pretty big joke.
So since they're still talking about it, I wanted to know, with Galactron, are you doing both voices for Galactron and Reptar, or is there someone that has to read the script for Reptar? Or
I have a little guy in there that I squeeze, and he talks.
Gotta keep those secrets.
Hey, I can't reveal all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I think everybody pretty much knows it's not a female. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but outside of that, it's having the Transformers and stuff like that. It's I always think of you and Mike West and now Bill Payne, but there's a select few that still do the Transformers, like Alan Tura, and I don't know who ran.
Yeah.
I don't know who ran Vorion. I don't know who did that, but still, do you guys actually, ever talk to each other and, maybe
absolutely
did a show saying, maybe we could do an all Transformer show or something like that?
Yeah. Well, actually George Carpenter, did there was some monster trucks there, but it was mostly, Transformers. Alan Tura had Transformer there. George Carpenter had Megasaurus there, and then I had my two there, and we were all actually out on the floor at the same time, which was pretty cool. And that was in Vegas at the New Orleans Arena. and I'm guessing there's probably some video of it out there somewhere. But that was pretty cool to have.
Did you guys all interact? Did you guys have a
yeah.
or something like that? Like,
yeah,
so,
we all kind of ganged up on poor Reptar, but
So-
yeah.
I like to see that video. I like to see how Megasaurus got into it. I could see Galactron and Sandstormer because they both had weapons and stuff like that against Reptar. But all everyone. Did you ever did anything with Will Towns in that Beastron?
Nope, I never did anything with Willie Towns. I knew Bob Bennett he ran Beastron there for a while back in its early days. But I never did anything with Willie. Just Alan and George, and Mike with Megasaurus.
And then did you from Team?
Well, I guess we did the Daytona Speedway too.
Okay.
We had all the robots were there. Both car eaters. Was it? Yeah, I think it was both car eaters. Alan and my stuff was there.
That'd been pretty cool to see.
That was pretty neat.
I remember one show at the Hampton Coliseum. You weren't there, but there was more than one Transformer. Back in the day, I forgot who owned Transaurus in the 90s.
Jack somebody. Gosh, I can't think of his last name. Out of Florida. Jack. I'm pretty sure it was Jack. And his wife, those two ran it.
So, outside of them during the time that was intermission, but between the monster trucks, they didn't have like quad wars or dirt bikes and stuff. So after racing, the first, it was racing no matter what. Like after round 1 in qualifying, they brought out Vorion, and he did his stint, and then. After that, after I think second round and semifinals, they brought out Beastron, and they had that. I guess that Transformer the guy. I don't know who's driving it, can go over cars. I've seen a couple shows where it, crushed cars and stuff like that, and stuff and doing that, and then. Before the finals, they brought Transaurus. That was the only really time. They never came out at the same time. They came out in different sections.
Right.
But still, that was about the only time I ever saw more than one Transformer at a show.
Yeah, I think we did a show at the RCA Dome, and it was Galactron and Vorion. We both came out at the same time. That was another one. And I think that was a special events show.
I first saw your Galactron back in the early 90s. You seemed like you did a lot of stuff with USA Motorsports.
I did. Did a lot of stuff for a lot of people, I guess. But it seemed, if somebody was going to use me consistently, I became pretty dedicated to them, and would just run, for them. And if I had open weekends, then I would, run for somebody else.
It was
easier.
Yeah. And with that also, with Galactron and Reptar, the situations like, did you ever had a show exactly like what I did at Hampton where you guys were a segment and then there was another Transformer there that was, part of another segment, or was a lot of times it was just joining with another group?
No, Virginia Beach. I did my performance with GNR, and then Mike come out with Megasaurus and did his performance, and those were separate times during the.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, sorry guys, I had to stretch my back out. It's been sitting here for a few hours, so when you have a lower back problem, it's just like, you gotta stand up every once in a while.
Yep.
Yeah, some people are talking about Draco and Dinosaur Rocks. Also, I guess someone was talking about a bullnose Ford monster truck that would turn into a Transformer. Destroyer, I think it was called back in the
Yep,
day.
yep. That was Ole Anderson's. Yep.
And
Seen that. Yeah, that was a pretty cool truck. And all of them are pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they all have their neatness or their different abilities that makes them cool. You know, I don't know. Sometimes, I don't know, they're not maintained as well as others. So yeah,
That's
no,
one thing I know
they're
about-
all cool.
That's one thing I knew about your product there, Dave, is your people may not even know that you've been rocking those things since the early 90s, and they
Right.
still look immaculate.
Yeah. Well, you take care of something and it takes care of you. Okay.
Yeah, that's words to live by. But
Yep.
well,
Exactly.
I think it's past my bedtime, and probably have to drink another glass of water.
Probably ran out of water is what happened.
Yeah. Well, another question before we go is you mentioned your monster truck videos. Any DVDs for sale?
I don't have any DVDs for sale. I'm going to be getting some to some of my old videos I can't even pull his name out of the top of my head. He's down in Louisville. He's gonna.
Chris Parrish.
Thank you. Yep, Chris. Yep, I'm gonna be getting some to Chris, and he's gonna put them on. Take a bunch of my old VHRs and put or VHSs and put them on disc, and then I'm gonna let him print off some of that stuff so he can have some of that old stuff too to put out there. Yeah, I'll let him do it. Jeez.
Another glass of water. Yeah, if I wanted to just have water, if I want to have water, I just open up a can of Coors Light. Same thing.
That's right. Well, maybe how do we know that isn't Coors Light? Yeah, he's saying water.
Probably just straight vodka.
There you go. Well,
Man, I drink vodka like this, man.
She should be off the rails already.
You won't even see me out on the floor.
Well, next time you have Tim or Mark Hall on here, you'll have to ask them about the adventure to Portland. Yep. Just ask them about the adventure to Portland. Yep.
Okay.
It's a USA show.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. The adventure started here in Grand Island. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, I'll ask him about that. But
Yep. Do that.
once again, we got fans still asking about questions, but we already. Sorry, I think Joseph.
Jose,
my bad. We did talk about the original nightlife and any features of it. He's trying to talk to his son-in-law. But overall, fans, next Thursday will be Devin Jones and Barbarian.
Cool.
He lives about the Miami, Oklahoma, south of you there, Dave. But
Yep.
it's gonna be the first episode. Actually, I'm gonna be in a different place. I'll be in Des Moines, Iowa, for a
Des Moines.
Des Moines, whatever.
Des Moines.
Canada. It's Des Moines. I don't
Des
know.
Moines, Canada.
Yeah, Canada.
See,
It's the water.
I
It's too moist.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah. So anyway, before I get more, English vocabulary corrected by a Canadian, we will go ahead and whatever, and Des Moines, whatever. Yeah,
Well, everybody be safe out there. Good seeing you. Good talking.
we'll do. But
Night,
we're gonna
everybody.
do an episode there, and Brad will be at home.
Yeah, I'll be stuck here right in Grand Prairie, Alberta, in my apartment for the next 3 days. So
So this right here is gonna be my
It's almost like
friend.
quarantine.
And this is gonna be my friend for the next show with Devin Jones. So hopefully I get service.
Right.
But I think we'll be all right.
Better
But,
keep your charger with you.
Yeah, definitely keep my charger with me.
Yeah.
Once again, Dave, thank you for everything you have
Oh,
done.
absolutely. Yep. No
Thank you
worries.
for being on too.
Yep. I'm glad to do it. Just glad to hear from some of them old people out there, or young people, or old friends, I should say. Yeah, look forward to hearing from them, seeing them. Yep, maybe I'll see them at the museum, the Hall of Fame this year.
Hopefully, that comes about and everything goes.
Yeah. We'll see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I hope everything's all well and safe. So
10-4. Well, once again, Dave, thank you again. And Brad, any final things?
Nope. Just
so anyway,
really, Chief, really.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow.
But I just also want to say, make sure you're checking on your friends and family out there, guys. Very uncertain times for a lot of people out there. Make sure they're doing good mentally and physically. Just make sure everybody's doing good. Go Edmonton Oilers. Beat those Chicago Blackhawks right to the ground, please.
Oh, yeah. We got to refresh that memory about that bet. So Brandon Culpepper, Mr. Culpepper over there in New York, likes a Chicago team. Anyway, actually, Brad made the bet on him. Yeah. He still probably doesn't know the bet still exists. I even tagged him on it and everything. I don't know what's going on. But if Edmonton loses, Brad has to drink a gallon of eggnog.
Mm-hmm. Live on air.
Yes.
And I despise this stuff, so it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. And then if Brandon loses, what was his deal?
I forget. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, me too.
But Edmonton won in dominating fashion last night. Connor McDavid, just a boss. So go Edmonton, beat those Chicago guys into the ground, and we'll keep on going. And again, as Cheech said, thank you, Dave, for coming on last minute. It was a blast getting to hear a lot of the old stories and a lot of the stuff with your robots, and can't wait to see more about what's coming on with you, man.
Yep, good. It's good to see you guys, and like I said, I hope everybody's doing well, and look forward to seeing everybody when all this stuff gets over with. Yep, absolutely.
Well, all right, guys. So
before we go, let's go Penguins, beat their Habs. Why they call them that?
The Habs? I'm not too sure, but they're the Montreal Canadiens. So, and from where I'm from in Canada, Alberta, we don't really give a rip about Quebec. So we don't really give a rip.
That's okay. That's fine with me. That's Christian and Phil's favorite team also. So they're going down. It's 1-1 right now. So we just beat that 3-1. So
again, guys, on Thursday we got Devin Jones, the Barbarian, and Dan will be releasing our guest for next week within the next few days. And guys, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. And as we always like to say on Crush This, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody.
There you go.
Peace.
Peace.